final stage, and as much as I'd like to be able to take that off with a tripod and move around with it, unfortunately I'm not going to be able to, since I'm the only one here videotaping. I wish I had a second person here that could sort of document this a little more effectively with me, but we'll do the best that we can anyway. So we'll have a look at the first bin, the least effective bin first, and I'm going to use this second pail to get rid of the things that I don't want. That, of course, will probably be out of frame. Just have a look. I guess we can flip these things around. So turn this around, and then at least I can see what you're seeing. Okay, so here we go. All right, nice rubber gloves, right? Kind of looks like V for Vendetta. Okay, so get rid of some of this other crap that we don't really need, and by that I mean the peels, the rotten banana peels especially. I think I made a big mistake putting banana peels in here in the first place, but you know, that's part of the learning experience, I suppose. So what I'm doing right now is kind of looking for worms, really. If this is anything like the other bin, they kind of move in certain packs to certain areas of the bin. There's another gross little moldy banana peel. So I'm going to start at this side and then work from my left to right. So in looking here, there are certainly worms. There's no question about it. Maybe I'll get a little pointer of some kind and I can sort of poke through this, get a feel for what we're dealing with. Luckily, one thing I have a good deal of tools. So we use this little magnetic tripod guy, and we'll just sort of poke around a bit. And there are some worms in here, of course. They're not as abundant and they're not as large as the worms were in the other ones. So I'm just going to take a handful of this and sort of deposit it in the new bin, and then slowly start to move around, shake some of this other stuff loose. Maybe I'll just start taking this stuff out entirely, because we really don't need all this in the new bin. All we need are really the worms. So as long as we don't end up with any worms in the garbage, well then I guess that's progress for us. So a lot of this is shredded paper, made for good bedding at the time, but unfortunately just didn't work out as great or as well as I had hoped. So getting to the center area a little more, take out some of these crusties. This is getting a little more encouraging actually. Just sort of dust this back a bit. There are a greater quantity of worms, albeit they're sitting sort of lower on down, and that could possibly be because of the light that's above me. These worms always run from the light. So again, another handful of that, and we'll sort of sprinkle that about in there. Take this out. No worms. So there's a worm in there. There was, anyways. And we'll move some of this stuff around. Put some bread in here. One thing I have never been sure of is exactly how much the worms enjoy bread. But it falls into the category of acceptable material, so that's fine with me. I guess where the biggest mistake was in these banana peels, because there are quite a few banana peels that really ought not to have been in here in the first place. So let me just, well, I don't have the clock up, so I'm not sure what time we are at in terms of how long the video has been running, but we'll keep at it. Again, a few more worms. They're not large, they're very, very small, and I don't know if that's a reflection of the fact that we got these from a particular supplier. And I don't want to say who, because if it's not the case, then that would be grossly unfair. I know that the worms that are waiting for us in the other bin are considerably larger, but that's maybe just the nature of the game. Okay, so again, more. Well, there's one that's really, really moving. I guess we want him in our side, but you can see, well, maybe you can't. This guy's actually bouncing all over the place. If I get him a little close to the camera, you can see him just sort of right here on my hand. But he's a fast mover, so always good to have fast movers on our side, because that's what we want. Fast moving worms. So we'll move some of this dirt back, get some of the other nonsense out of the way. More of the shredded paper. Flatten that down a bit. Some of this. Now there are quite a few worms still kicking about in here. You know, all things being equal, this may not have ended up being such a bad thing long term, but at the same time, the consolidation of the worms into a single bin, I think, is going to be of a greater benefit, just because, you know, more are going to do certainly either a faster job, a better job, or they're just going to have a more concentrated approach to things. And that's what I want to see. I want to see the breakdown, the quickness with which things break down, that sort of stuff. I don't want to be sitting here playing with bins where worms are potentially escaping, and that you know, doesn't really contribute to the overall experiment of what we're trying to accomplish. So there's a lot of garbage in here, really. As well, I guess as per usual, one should expect a lot of garbage in a worm composter, but there's also plastic in here that I don't believe I put plastic in these bins, so I don't know if someone else has been poking about in here or not. There's even some citrus peels, which I'm not fond of, but it's good to see that the worms are there. Here's an elastic. That's certainly not something I would have put in there. Something very hard. I don't know what that is. Again, more bread. I don't know where all the bread. Oh, here's a whole stack of worms. Actually, this is much more encouraging here. I wish we could, and maybe we can. If I could turn this a bit. And this is on a tripod, so I'm going to try to pull this a little bit forward. I'm going to down this a bit, if I can. I don't know if we can tip this any further down or not. But in this area back here, there's actually quite a number of worms that have sort of gotten together, one big party of worms. Maybe if I pick them up, you can see in my hand that there's quite a few that are moving about. Here, let's get it a little closer to the camera, and maybe with some luck here we can actually see the worms moving, but they are there. See, they are there. So that's great. It's good to see them at least clumping in some areas. They don't clump in all of them, but they're clumping in some. And that's the one thing, certainly, that they were not doing in the... oh, yeah, this is actually much better. The center of this bin is very, very rich with worms in terms of how they've come together, clumping together. So maybe that...